Hey, we
Want to call to order the Livingston Parish Council meeting for July 8, 2021. Mr. Waston, would you like to start off the invocation?
Lord, we want to take just a moment to come before you and just say thank you for all you've done and for the goodness and mercy that you've given us. Help us all to understand when we come before you in prayer, two most important things. One, that you are God, and with that comes forgiveness and mercy and love. You're all wisdom and understanding, and you hold not just the title, but you are your position. You are God of everything from the beginning to the end. And help us to remember the second most important thing, that we are not God, and that our place here is to serve you, to serve our fellow man in honesty, purity, and love, and with a kind heart. In Jesus' name, amen.
Mr. McMorris, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please, sir?
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Sandy, could you call the roll, please?
Awesome.
Here.
Mr. Orr is absent. Mr. Shelford.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. McMorris.
Here.
Mr. Delac.
Here.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Here.
Mr. is absent. Mr. King.
here.
Okay, at this point in time, I'd like to take a second to remind everyone to either mute or turn off your cell phone. The reason I'm picking mine up to make sure I do this properly, because I have forgotten on occasion. Item 6, public input. There will be times in the meeting when we'll call for public input. At that point in time, we'd ask you to approach the podium, state your name and address. But we'll let y'all know when those public input times are available. Item 7, presentations. We are here tonight to receive the 2020 audit presentation by Mr. John Murray of Report CPAs and Business Advisors. I think all of y'all have a audit in front of you.
My name is John. We did the audit for the year to December 31st, 2020. I'll go through some highlights. If you have any questions, just please let me know. The first thing I want to go over is on page 1 and 2. And actually on page 2 is our audit report. The first thing to note about the financial statements, they do not include y'all's component units. So it doesn't include fire districts, rec districts, anything like that. It's just the primary government. But our opinion is in the third paragraph. And we say there, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So we gave a clean, unmodified opinion on y'all's financial statements for the year. I want to go through the fund financial statements real quick. Just let me know if you have any questions on that. That begins on page 18. We'll do the balance sheet first. The general fund had total assets of $21.9 million, liabilities of $1.8 million, had fund balances of $20.1 million. Of that, about $8.8 was unassigned. The health unit fund had $8.3 million in assets, liabilities of $300,947, and then fund balance of $7.9 million. The jail sales tax fund had $1.1 million in assets, $11.5 million in liabilities. It had a deficit fund balance of $10.4 million. Then if you go to the next page, kind of go over the rest of the funds. The road fund had total assets of $14.1 million, had liabilities of $3.4, and it had fund balance of $10.6 million. The Office of Emergency Preparedness Fund had total assets of about $700,000, liabilities about $1.3 million, and then a deficit fund balance of about $600,000. And then all y'all's other funds combined, which if you want to see a detail of that, they're on page 89 to 92. Those had total assets of $16.3 million, liabilities of $2.4 million, And then fund balance, about 13.9 million, most of that being restricted monies. Then if you'll turn to page 21, 21 is the income statement. And you can see the general fund had 11.4 million in revenues, had expenditures of 9.1 million, and it had net transfers out to other funds of 2.7 million. And that gave it a net change in fund balance of a loss of 350,000. The health unit fund had 1.6 million in revenues, 1.2 million in expenditures, and it had a positive change in fund balance of 257,000. Then the jail sales tax fund had total revenues of 5.5 million, expenditures of 3.3, and it had a positive change in fund balance of 213,000. The road fund had total revenues of 24.5 million, expenditures of 24.1, and some transfers to the debt service fund, and a net change in fund balance of a negative 5 million. The Office of Emergency Preparedness had 12.5 million in revenues, 14.3 million in expenditures, had transfers in of 1.5, and had a loss for the year of 270,000. And then finally, that non-major category had 7.1 million in revenues, expenditures of 14.6, and then transfers of 9.8, and so it was a positive change in fund balance of 2.2. The next section I'll go over is our reports on internal control and compliance. That is on page 101. We're required to do two reports. One of those is in accordance with government auditing standards. In the government auditing standards, we have to obtain an understanding of y'all's internal control as it relates to the financial statements. We have to do testing of y'all's controls, and we also have to test y'all's compliance with state laws and other requirements. So if you turn to page 102, at the top there, we say in the last sentence, given these limitations, during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. So there was nothing from a control standpoint that we needed to report. On the compliance section, that's the next paragraph, we said the results of our test disclose an instance of noncompliance or other matters that is required to be reported under government auditing standards, which is described in the company schedule of findings and question calls. And we'll go over that shortly. The other report we do is related to the uniform guidance. It's required because y'all have a certain amount of federal funds, and we have to test y'all's compliance with those funds. And this year we tested 3 different programs, and the summary of that is on page 104 at the top. And we say, in our opinion, the council complied in all material respects with the types of compliance requirements referred to above that could have a direct or material effect on each of its major federal programs. So we didn't see, we basically gave you all a clean opinion on compliance as well. Then if you'll turn to page 109, we'll go over the compliance finding. The compliance finding relates to the Louisiana Local Government Budget Act. The Budget Act requires that when y'all's budgeted revenues are falling short of actual, of your let me rephrase that. Your actual revenues are falling short of your budget, that you amend your budget, and likewise when your expenditures are going over your budget, the budget amount that you amended. And so the question was the general fund. The general fund's revenues was 1.5 million, or about 1.6 million short of the budget, and it was really on one category, the federal grant line. Y'all had budgeted about 3.3 million, and it was about, I think about 1.6, about a $1.5 million difference. And that's what caused it to be over the variance. So our recommendation is we recommend that y'all monitor this revenues more closely and amend the budget if you need to. Any questions?
Those extra expenditures that caused us not to be in compliance are not being recorded. That's what made us not compliant? Is that what you're saying?
Well, this is on the revenue side. Actually, if you want to turn to page,
Well, and my question is,
In case they
if
did.
when we approve the expenditures, that is amending the budget. I mean, I don't understand how that would make us not compliant.
Right, and this is actually on the revenue side. It was, so basically, y'all budgeted federal sources of 2.3 million. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page.
What page you on?
Page 24. And you can see the final budget for the federal revenues was 3.8 million. And we actually came in at 2.3 million. So it was about 1.5 million short. And the federal grants are kind of hard to regulate because, you know, you don't know, you know.
Okay. And that'll be adjusted for the end of this year's budget though, won't it?
This is last year.
This is last
This
year.
is the
This is last
adjustment.
year.
John, we amended this budget in what, December,
Yeah, the last meeting, second to last meeting,
which was the first meeting in December?
December.
So when we amended the budget in the first week of December based on what she thought was gonna happen over the next few weeks. And it's still, I mean, we waited till the last minute to amend the budget, to revise it as close as possible. And those federal revenue dollars that they thought would come in still didn't come. So that's what made
I see.
it. So it's did we have a problem on the expenditure side or was it just a revenue side?
The expenditure side, you were fine. Now the state law has like a provision, like if it's just a federal grant fund, then it doesn't matter if it's over, because it's not based on the grant. But this, it doesn't say for general fund, so it's kind of a, you know.
Okay, so typically what we have done in the past is when we adopt a budget, like when we adopt next year's budget, we're going to, typically the administration is going to put in whatever potential federal grants they feel are going to be funded. So we don't have to go back and amend the budget if the grant is issued. So we put the grant in initially when we do the adoption. Is that a good practice, given the fact that we had a finding at the end because one of the grants that we had in the revenue side didn't come through? Or should we amend the budget throughout the year as a grant is funded and then put it in at that point in time?
You know, I would say really what you did as far as amended at the end of the year, I mean, that to me, that seems to be the best thing to do. But I think it's kind of just gauging that and, you know, budgeting. So, I think what you did was correct. You know, I think it's just, again,
We'll
just.
just have bad siding on page 104 every year.
That it doesn't
I mean,
come through.
unless we need to
Which
do
isn't a bad thing, you're
another
not saying it's
amendment.
horrible, it just was a finding.
But
Yeah.
the way the home rule charter is written, we've got to amend the budget in the next to last meeting. Well, typically, the last meeting, because we're the first and third, or because we're the second, fourth, we always move them up because it would put us meeting typically between Christmas and New
Eve.
Year's. So consequently, we end up because of the way the home rule charter is structured, we have to amend the budget in the next to last meeting, which puts us in the first week of December. And so typically, she anticipates what revenue she thinks is coming in, which you don't know until typically the end of February. Am I correct?
Well, I mean, you're not going to get your invoices from your contractors and your vendors and so forth until like January or February.
So we're trying to project revenue. We're making an amendment the first week of December based on revenue that we're not going to know about until actually February when it can be put on the books based on, you know, when sales tax revenue and all that kind of stuff.
So if we didn't put them in there in the first place, we'd amend it when it came through.
But every time you do an amendment to the budget, you've got to have everything up to snuff at that point in time. So
Right.
consequently, typically revenue put in initially
Puts a push
based on
on
what
them.
we think is going to happen, and then we pull it out at the end. This time, there was a 1.5 million that they
Didn't
thought
come
was going to
through.
fund based on when we made the amendment in the first week of
Yeah, I
December.
think
that
Jennifer's
didn't come.
told us several times about them during the year and said they just,
But typically, the question is, we made the expenditure amendments proper because I don't think we had anything outside the 5% variance on the expenditure side. So it was
Chairman,
just a
I wanna
revenue.
ask a question.
Yes, sir. Black.
Basically, I don't, if you did answer the chairman's question earlier, I didn't hear it. But he asked if that was a sound practice, the way to do the amendments.
Yes, I think it's the way to do it. I mean,
Okay,
I
that's
think
what
it's
I
the
need
best
to
thing
know.
you can do as far as, you know, because I mean, if you make it a moving target throughout the year, you know, and you're doing a budget amendment every meeting, I'm not sure that it really, I think it's probably better to wait till the end of the year.
So if you did revenue, I'm not talking about expenditures, revenue is what we got hit for. So if we didn't make the amendments until they actually happened and did try to project them, What would be the downside of that?
There's really not a downside of it. I mean, it's really just it's a state law, and it's really, if you look at all the audits that are turned into the legislative auditors, this is very common finding. It's just,
It's grants run through the general fund, because Randy, if it was a federal grant, if it was a grant fund,
I wouldn't even report.
it wouldn't matter. It's only because that grant ran through the general fund that we get a finding, because we're outside the 5%
And
variance.
it's a minor finding.
Right, I
Yeah,
mean, yeah.
right.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very
One
much.
question, one more question before you
Yes,
leave. You mentioned something about the liabilities in the road fund being 3.1 million. Is that the debt service?
The which fund?
The road fund, you said it was 3.1 million liability.
Yeah, let's go to that. Yeah, the liabilities was total 3.3 million at the road fund. And y'all had a lot of activity during the year as far as like a lot of maintenance on the roads. And so I think probably your accounts payable and was more than it normally is. And I think that's probably what.
Yeah, the bond, I don't think is reflected in that number, Randy. The bond's gonna pay out, the bond should have paid out after the month of February, the bond should have been paid off. So I think this is an actual, like, we got a bill, we put it on the book, we didn't write the check, so we had an outstanding expenditure or accounts payable at the end of the year.
Outstanding.
Right. It's work that had been done, that the check didn't get cut in the fiscal year.
And those two big bonds, the road fund and jail fund, they've been paid. So that's.
And one more question, Mr. Chairman. On the health unit, you said we had a positive of 250,000. What was the change in that?
Okay, so the health unit, I think really it's really just an issue of the expenditures was less, and that probably was because y'all were closed a lot maybe for some period of time.
But the personnel were the same personnel, is that true? We didn't lay anybody off, anybody?
Yeah, I would say it's basically the same.
Same personnel.
Now,
See, Randy, this is the first time that the health unit fund has grown, because if you remember, when the last time the tax was renewed, basically they looked at the surplus fund, when the health unit fund was originally put forth, it was designed with the surplus. The last time it was brought before the people, they accounted for the surplus and reduced the millage, so that typically when the millage was over with, the surplus would have been used up. And at one point in time, and a few years ago, the surplus fund was sinking faster than where we were gonna be. But I think because of additional revenues, we now had a positive balance, and the fund didn't sink for the first time since the tax.
Yeah, they went from 5 mills to 2, and actually,
I want to ask Arthur this question. I wanna ask- So we saying that the positive was more funds coming in and not less expenditures? Because he's explaining there's more funds coming in.
yeah, I think that's probably it. I mean, one thing, I mean, it's small, it's not the main reason, but one thing, a lot of y'all's COVID costs, y'all got a grant for, so that was reimbursed.
The question I was asking Mr. Chairman and Mr. Auditor is that it was $250,000 in our favor. And I was not sure if it was because of more revenue coming in or we had less expenditures. And that's what I was trying to get at.
I think it looked like it was a combination of both, Randy. I think if I had to
Yeah,
guess.
I would think so. I mean, you did have an increase in your ad valorem taxes for the year, so that would be part of it.
That's all the questions I had.
Which is a positive thing, because what we looked at a few years ago when we looked at this deal initially is that the surplus was gonna be gone prior to the tax up for renewal, which was not how the tax was originally submitted. The tax was originally submitted based on the fact that the surplus in the fund would be eliminated about the same time. And because of the increased revenue, we're probably closer on track over last year, because we gained some of that money back.
I'm satisfied.
Okay, so at this point in time, we need a motion to receive the audit. Is that what we're looking for? We're good? We don't have to do anything?
Just a presentation.
Just a presentation. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okey-doke. Item 8, public hearing and adoption of resolution to grant or deny a noise variance. Ms. Sandy, do you need to read something on this before we do it?
No, we need to open the public hearing in case anybody's here.
Okay, so we need to, so this is an item that we granted a temporary variance for, and now we need to have the public hearing before we grant the permanent variance. At this point in time, we'd like to open the public hearing. If someone has to would like to comment, come up to the podium, state your name and address. Nobody wants to comment. We're going to close the public hearing. Is there a motion, or does the council have any discussion on this at this point in time? We got a motion by Mr. Delat, second by Mr. Harris, or motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Delat. Is there any objection among the members? All in favor say aye. Aye. All right.
Can you state what the motion was?
Okay, the motion is to grant a noise variance for between the hours of midnight and 6 in the morning, and that motion or that variance is valid through August 31st, 2021, with accordance with section 22-23, variance of exceptions of the code of orders. So that's what the motion was. We got a second. So, all right, item 9. This is adopt a resolution to approve Weyerhaeuser Company for participation in the Louisiana ITEP program, project ID 202-101-48-ITE. Project location is 17391 Florida Boulevard, Holden, Louisiana. This is in Mr. Mack's district. Mr. Mack's not here, but we have somebody from the LEDC would like to come speak. How you doing, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Name's David Bennett with the Livingston Economic Development Council, and we have a great project that we wanted to receive your approval for. It's a major proposed capital investment of approximately $138 million at the Weyerhaeuser Holden facility that will essentially completely revamp and remodernize that entire facility. Weyerhaeuser will secure 119 existing jobs. The project will also generate an estimated 225 construction jobs with an estimated payroll of those construction jobs of $25 million. The company has gone through all of the appropriate steps, filing paperwork with the state, received their approval from the Board of Commerce and Industry, which has led us to this next step. You all have been provided a financial analysis that we have come to provide on each of these projects to you all, and so I'm here to answer any questions about the project and the administrative procedures behind that. If there's any technical questions, we also have an individual from the company here that can try to help with that. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Mr. Chairman, the question I have to ask is there going to be any taxes that the parish will have to give up to make this project go forward?
Well, that's what the industrial tax exemption
And how much is
process
that?
Program is. Yes, sir. It would be the 80% abatement on behalf of the parish, and the company would pick up the remaining 20% for a 5-year period, up to an additional 5 years after that.
It's 80%.
So Randy, the number is 14 million. Okay, but this is not 14 million off existing revenue. This is additional revenue. So we're granting a $14 million exemption over a 10-year period.
Okay,
And
I understand.
okay,
So the other government entities also have to do this. Is that correct?
It goes before the sheriff and the school board as well.
Has anybody done this yet?
Y'all are the first ones.
We're the first one.
Randy, I sat in on the meetings when Weyerhaeuser presented this to. There was representatives from the sheriff's office and the school board. Typically in these meetings, we're looking at a few things. Number one, is there positive jobs? The thing you don't get in here, based on the way that the state calculates through the deals, you don't get to see the synergistic effect of the additional construction jobs. You know what I'm talking about, and how that plays out the parish. All you look at are a number of additional jobs and then additional revenue based on the investment.
Okay, and, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So you said there were 119 current
Existing jobs,
employees.
yes.
So, forgive me, I might be wrong on this. Doesn't it require like an increase in permanent jobs?
No,
That-
there's a compelling reason to retain those jobs, and with the manufacturing, advanced manufacturing process of being able to retain those jobs, in which new facilities are using much fewer employees than this. The idea is that they are trying to actually just retain those positions to make the
And that
facility.
falls within the
Yes,
guidelines that
yes,
the
it
state
does.
set forward.
Yes.
Who monitors that? If they cut 25% of the workforce down the road 2 years, who monitors it so they can pull their ITEP?
They monitor, the state monitors it, they must turn in annual reports to the state.
Employment.
And if they fall below that threshold, they inform the local bodies of that
So,
infraction.
look, if they fall below the threshold, we'll get notification, and then we have action at
We
that
can
point in time
cancel.
that we can take if we want to.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Are there any other facilities Weyerhaeuser has in Livingston Parish besides the whole
No,
facility?
that's the only facility.
Did they have one in Livingston,
In the town of Livingston,
right outside of Livingston?
this is between Livingston and Holden.
So this is the same facility?
It's the same facility, it was built in 1980, I'm sure it's the same
Okay.
facility.
Right there.
Randy, look, all I can tell you is in sitting in on the meetings that, you know,
You don't have to convince me, Mr. Chairman, you've done a good job
Okay.
explaining what's going on. So I'm not gonna take any politicking from you. But what I would like to do is wait until Mr. Shane Mack comes at the next meeting, being the other government entities haven't approved this yet. I wanna make sure I'm not on a point out there by myself. So I would
We
like to
talked
just
to
wait.
Shane about it. He
Shane
was
was
in
in on
favor.
the meeting, Shane was in favor
Yeah.
of this particular situation.
He still hasn't presented to the school board, he hasn't presented to the sheriff. There's still some other parish government entities that this project's gonna go forward, and they may decide to keep that tax money.
And if that happens, then the project won't go forward.
No matter what we
We either
say.
vote some support for it or not vote some support for it, but we could,
I make a motion, we defer it to the next meeting.
I think Shane should be here,
Yes.
so, but I mean that in the way you don't mean. If Shane
Had a problem with
had
it,
a
he would have
problem
been
with
here.
it, he'd be here, or he'd call one of us and voice his opinion.
yeah.
Is that a second or no?
I mean, Shane, look, all I can tell you, Shane was in favor of the project, and so,
And there is a time limit on.
I mean,
on
we
these
do
as
have-
well.
we
So
do have
there is
some
a
What's the
strict
time limit?
You have 30 days from the.
We have another meeting in 2 weeks.
okay, so we got a motion by Randy, did we get a second?
I'll make the second.
Okay, so do we have a substitute motion to approve the resolution?
I would like to make a substitute motion. I'm a big fan of tax exempt tip programs. I think taking money from letting businesses keep the, tightening the belts on government tax money and letting businesses spend that money to improve their business.
I'm not-
It helps everyone, and we've done this before. I mean, I'm familiar with it with Bass Pro and Denim and a bunch of other ones, so I'd like to make a substitute motion, we approve it.
Okay, so we got a substitute motion for approval, we have a second.
Okay, discussion on that motion.
Okay,
Okay, I'm not against it, that's the first thing, okay?
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that I'm in line with the other government agencies. So waiting 2 weeks will not kill this
But
project.
all of them could do the same
I mean-
thing.
Well, if they all do the same thing, then they want to kill it. You can't do
Well,
us first.
one-
We have the
And if
option.
we do it, we want to kill it.
I mean,
No, we
ultimately,
don't. We have the
ultimately,
option to do, we have the option to go
Okay.
ahead and defer for 2 weeks and still be on board with it.
if any other entity votes no, then it dies, right?
No,
It is up to the discretion
it
then of
does
the
not
governor.
Okay, so ultimately, they changed the rule, and the state could go ahead and approve it anyway.
It is, that would be, there's discussions about how that would proceed.
Okay.
Can I state how I understand the state law? State law states that you have that option to grant this or not, okay? Each government agency, and there was one not too long ago where the sheriff didn't grant that option, but we did. So what I am saying is, I want to make sure all the rest of them are. It does not kill that, the company has to decide whether they want to go forward with the project. If the state, if the sheriff doesn't withhold his, or the parish doesn't withhold his, or whatever. I'm just asking to wait 2 weeks. That's all I'm asking to do.
The solar deal, how did that end up, how did the resolution on that end up?
It was approved by the council and approved by the school board and denied by the sheriff.
Based on the fact that it created no jobs, am I correct?
It was going to create one job.
One job. So what happened? Did the sheriff not give up revenue in that thing, or did the state?
That was, he denied it.
He denied, okay.
And this project is not on the school board's agenda as of yet, that I know of, so I don't know
Y'all
when that
understand
will
what's
be.
going on? Not one job being created here.
I thought it just said 200.
But it's 200
Retaining
construction jobs,
119
but it's
jobs.
retaining the existing jobs. Look,
It's
here's
not
the
adding
deal.
eight jobs
The
with
current,
better
the
technology.
current plan is adequate. We've got two options. We can either grant the ITEP and they can upgrade the facility and make it one of their premier facilities, or we can not grant it And there's a pretty good chance that it'll go away, because it's not efficiently operating at this point. Look, there's no additional revenue that we're giving up. We're not losing any tax dollars that we're not already currently collecting.
Why do we have to rush this decision tonight? We do not have to do it tonight.
I mean, so you wanna wait to see what the school board and the sheriff says?
I want to wait 2 weeks and then everybody's going to know what they're going to do in 2 weeks. Everybody's going to know. 2 weeks is our next meeting. Doesn't kill this project at all.
Look,
Well, if this doesn't pass, how many permanent employees do they have now?
119.
And it's my understanding, if this doesn't pass, they're gonna have to start cutting employees.
you know, I mean, look,
It's-
nobody said that they're gonna lay anybody off, but basically, as I understand it, the plan is not operating efficiently and it's got its limitations. What they're planning to do is upgrade. And so, look, the economy, I mean, the world economy is becoming more efficient. We either allow business to become more efficient or we let it go by the wayside. Look, Livingston Parish doesn't have a ton of industry. I mean, it's a bedroom community. We really can't afford to give up.
Well, then Randy's not saying he's gonna vote no, he just wants,
I mean, but-
but
I
I wanna
think they're
be,
good neighbor and good business.
I'd rather be first.
Okay, so look,
I don't want to be the only one that gives up tax
I
money
don't-
and the business is still stays. And everybody else, school board took their tax money, the sheriff took his tax money, and we asking people to just a few months ago to vote another, they poor too, they don't have money either. To
But
vote
Randy,
another one
we're
says,
not-
Hey, don't cut me off, I'm
Okay,
still
I'm
at the
sorry.
floor. And the thing about this is that we have a good debate here, we got two sides on the issue, and I may be on the losing side, but we said we're gonna be good stewards of the people's money. We don't have to give away 14 million today, we may have to give it away 2 weeks from now, so why are we in such a hurry to give it away today? We may give it away 2 weeks from now,
I want
and I may
secure
be the
them
one to make the
119
motion to
jobs.
do it.
I wanna secure those 119 jobs, make sure they're there.
That does no guarantee of it.
so currently, right now, we have a motion to.
Substitute motion.
We have a substitute motion to
Call for
approve
vote.
the resolution and a second.
Call for vote.
Okay, let's call for the vote. Ms. Sandy, would you call the
Which
roll?
one?
We're voting on your substitute motion right now to approve the resolution to grant the ITIP.
Mr. Wasson?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
No.
Mr. McMorris?
No.
Mr. Earlyhouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
The item carries. So we don't need to vote on the original motion. Thank you very much. Item 10, public hearing and adoption of LP 21-18, acquire movable property owned at 15963 Cypress Point Lane, Creek Settlement, Louisiana 70733 for $37,500 as part of the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. At this point in time, we'd like to open a public hearing. Is there anyone like to comment on the public hearing? No one like to comment, would like to close the public hearing. Is there a motion amongst the council members?
Can I read it real quick?
Go ahead, Ms. Sandy, we'll read.
Okay, this is proposed ordinance 21-18. This is an ordinance to acquire movable property for the parish of Livingston pursuant to the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, project number 17920630004 for Livingston Parish.
Good question.
Go ahead.
Which pool of money is it? Is this from Gustav still? Does anybody know?
I don't know if there's anybody from the administration at this point in time that knows. Typically, I mean, it's hazard mitigation grant money that, you know, the people or the amount offered was 37.5 with an appraised value of
And they
50,000
accepted
because of repetitive loss.
Mm-hmm. But
I can't tell you.
the reason I'm asking is because with the letter deal that, went out, people are asking me saying, they're gonna fund this immediately and they won't tear the house down. And I'm telling them, we still get monies allocated for mitigation from Gustav 13 years ago.
I can't tell
So
you.
the odds of that money being funded this year or next year that ain't gonna happen.
But I can't answer that question where.
Well, I just wanted to ask the question. If nobody was here to answer it, then at least the people they'll see this, they'll know I'm trying to ease some concerns for some of these folks,
Okay,
you know?
So the public hearing's been closed. Do
All right.
we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
We got a motion by Mr. McMorris, we got a second by Mr. Delotte. Is there any objection among the council? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, that item carries. Item 11, ratification of amendments and adoption of Livingston Parish Ordinance 21-17, amend section 125-33 drainage easement requirements in June 24, 2021 of the regular meeting of Livingston Parish Council. So here's what happened.
Yeah.
We amended it in the ordinance committee. The ordinance committee sent forth a recommendation. What we did not do was accept the amendments and then adopt it as amended. So basically what we're asking is the original, as it was submitted originally, was limited to gravity district 1. The amendments offered within the ordinance committee made it a parish-wide ordinance with respect to the deal. So consequently, the ordinance committee sent out a recommendation, but we did not amend it and then adopt it as amended. So the initial thing I think we've got to do, Sandy, is amend it.
Yeah, read what's being amended.
Okay, so I know you gave me the cheat sheet on that somewhere.
You had red right from the front.
But no, I always have red writing, so I know exactly what to do. Otherwise, I would be lost sometimes. Okay, so basically, under Livingston Parish Ordinance 21-17,
Here it is.
under, it's item, it's 11 in your cheat sheet to the right, the stuff in red initially, that all new construction is required to comply with this ordinance effective, all developments approved and constructed before this date are exempt from this ordinance. Its ordinance is going into effect when it's signed by the parish president. We're not
So it
setting
don't
forth a
need to
date. The other thing that is amended is that basically the servitude, it laid out the widths of the servitude. We're adding that building line setbacks should at least be 5 feet from the drainage easement. Because what happens is we say that we need, let's say we need 25-foot servitude to go in and maintain a pipe. However, the contractor could build a slab right on the line at 25 foot, then you have to give them a buffer against the slab so you decrease your working area. So every utility servitude that we have has a 5-foot setback. So we're asking that the drainage easement have a 5-foot setback. That's what was amended. So we need a motion to adopt these two amendments. So we got a motion by Scooter, second by Tracy.
Discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr.
I voted for this first time. Now, we saying that this is parish-wide, District 1, District 2, what are we saying?
Parish-wide, all 5 gravity drainage districts. It'll apply in all 5 of them.
All 5 gravity.
All 5 gravity drainage.
And no one from gravity drainage has got a problem with this, right?
Nobody from either gravity drainage has had
And
any.
this will not apply to municipalities.
It will not apply to municipalities. This is a parish ordinance.
Or rural areas without gravity drainage.
There are
There
no
are-
rural
there are
areas
none.
without gravity drainage anymore.
Yeah, we got them all, okay.
All right. So basically, it'll be a parish-wide ordinance. If John, for example, within the city of Denham laws will apply.
That's right.
But outside any other municipality that doesn't have any boundaries, whether it be a village or a, city
Town.
or whatever, then it'll
And I
apply.
want you've done a great job explaining it a while ago, but please can you just do the highlights again one more time?
So basically, basically what it said is typically we had a drainage servitude of distance X. Well, what happens is based on the depth of the pipe and the size of the pipe, the current drainage servitude might not be wide enough. So the drainage servitudes in future developments will be based on the size pipe laid and the depth of the pipe laid.
Okay, that's what I would need to know.
So it gives us the ability to go in and work, whether we slope it, whether we, step it, or whether they drive pilings. The only additional amendment is that you still shrink the size of the servitude that you can work in if you allow the slab to be poured up against the line. So typically in any utility setback, there's a 5-foot setback, so they can work up to the line. So all we're asking is to amend this to allow for an additional 5-foot setback on the slab so that we can utilize the whole servitude to go in and do the construction. Okay, so we got a motion and a second, and we want to close discussion, go ahead and we want to vote on this. Ms. Sandy, is there any objection amongst council members? Okay, so being no objection, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, so that approved the amendments. Now we need to adopt the ordinance as amended. So do we have a motion on that? We got a motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. McMorris. Is there any discussion amongst council members? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, so that
Does it need to be
carries.
read?
I just wanted to go on the record that our legal counsel directed us to do this.
Right,
Correct.
because we breezed.
I want to change my vote.
Mr. Delat wants a, he wants a. Okay, so we fixed that mistake. Item 12, adoption of the minutes from the June 24th, 2021 regular meeting of council. Do we have a motion? Everybody got them?
I got those, I read through them, I think Miss Sandy did a fantastic job.
Okay, so we got a motion by Mr. Girlinghouse and
Let's
a kissy second from Mr. Waskett. Is there any objection?
What kind of second?
A kissy second.
She did a great, I actually,
Is there
she
any
did,
objection?
it was a hard meeting to record, and you did a
It
great
was,
job.
that was
Is there-
convoluted.
Is there any objection among the council members? All in favor, say aye. Okay, so the minutes are adopted. Let's see where we're at next. Parish President's report, there's nothing to report tonight, so we're gonna go straight to 14, Livingston Parish Planning Commission recommendation. Mr. Sam DiGirolamo. How's the baseball going,
Why
Sam?
there's so many?
Game still going good? Just lost. Well, but your grandson got a smash one, didn't he?
He smashed.
I hear,
Nice.
okay, so good. You wanna go ahead and handle this for us today, Mr. Sam?
Another finish. Okay, guys. First on the agenda is Faithful Tattoo Studio.
I don't know, that's in my district, I have no idea.
Okay, that's a commercial development. It's in Mr. Scooter King's district. It's off of John Thibodeau Lane. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the change of usage for Faithful Tattoo Studio, contingent on getting a letter from the neighbors waiving the fence, and we got the letter. So,
All right, well, I'll make a motion then to get the letter. That's the
We
only
got
thing
the
I
letter.
Question, all right?
Okay, so we've got a motion by Mr. King, we have a second, got a second by Mr. Laddy, any objection, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, that one carries.
okay, next on your agenda is landmark lighting. That's been tabled.
Okay.
So we'll deal with that in just a moment. Next on the agenda is a commercial development, South Live Oak Elementary addition in Mr. Gary Talbert's district on Cecil Drive. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the addition for South Live Oak Elementary.
Will somebody make that motion for me?
No.
Mr. Harris makes, second by Mr. Girlinghouse, any objection, all in favor say aye.
Okay, guys, next on the agenda is another commercial development, Auto Imports preliminary site plan. This is in Mr. Bubba Harris's district, Officer Highway 16. It's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Auto Imports.
You make that decision?
I have a
I
discussion
think we have a
on
man out there that might want to say something on
Okay,
this.
somebody want to come speak on it?
that. Sam, it was my understanding at the planning commission that y'all approved, had to be a fence built, a buffer fence dividing the commercial property and the residential property
Right,
together. Did you, were you at the meeting?
yeah.
Are you familiar with that fence requirement?
Is that the one a long time ago?
No. it's
Last night?
Well, I was there last night. What's your question?
Did
Yeah.
y'all
John-
require a fence
Yes.
on the property?
Yes, you're gonna require a fence.
Well, you didn't say that.
Well, I didn't have to because he didn't ask for a waiver.
All
It's on your
commercials have to have a
drawings.
fence.
Who's gonna build it?
The fence shows on your drawings.
So there will be a fence on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, down his property line.
Okay.
They don't have to have a fence between them and the Dollar General, because typically Dollar General's already built a fence.
Yeah.
But because they're commercial properties of light, they don't have to have a fence between them.
That threw me for a loop.
Well,
You
if-
say
if
they're
you
not
read-
gonna put a
It's
fence?
just
No,
between-
I said, typically the Dollar General was there first, so there's probably a fence already. But
Right.
what I'm saying is, if you read the ordinance, light use property, so two commercial properties sitting by side, don't have to be separated by a fence. So the only place the fence would have to be was outside the property line, where the Dollar General butts up with.
I see what you're saying, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
but it will be one
I
between the
second the
residential.
motion.
So we've got a motion by Mr.
and the
Harris and a
commercial.
second by Mr.
Does that answer your
Gillette.
question?
I have one more. We've run into problems in the past. We approved this tonight, and will the permit get issued before the fence is built? So there will not be a permit to do.
We'll go out there on a final inspection, just like we do any other commercial development. If the developer builds according to the plans, then we'll give him a acceptance. And then we'll sign the map, and he goes to work.
To answer John's question, though, I feel like it was directed at someone in administration, and I take offense to that, John. There was not a permit issued to start out with when you showed Stan 2 meetings ago, 2 weeks ago. That permit that was issued was only for a trailer, okay? So no fence had to be built for a trailer.
Mr. Deland, I hate that you take offense because my intentions were strictly good. I just want to make sure that this gentleman does not start building.
You can't convince me of that.
Well, I'm telling you what I said. Now, if you can't, I can't.
I heard it, that's why I
John,
took offense.
he can't build until the plans are approved.
That's all I was asking. I mean,
But that ain't nothing new. That's been there before you even got elected.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. Is there any objection? Do we need, I think we call the roll.
Can I say something?
Sure, come on up.
My name's Mark. I live in the house next door to where he's building. You know, I got a big, beautiful home there. We're just trying to make sure that the fence is gonna go all the way down so I don't come out my back door and see cars or something back there. That's all that's about.
Sam, on this drawing, the fence is you or Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Yes.
So the property is gonna, the fence is gonna go from Highway 16 all the way to the Melrose Planning Company property?
Wherever he shows it on the drawing.
Right, should be
I
about
don't have it
600
in
foot.
front of me. I saw it last night.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the 600-foot fence is gonna,
And that's
where it
what we're-
touches your property, because they're not like use, then there'll be a fence.
Okay, that's all
Okay.
I need.
Cool.
That's
Thank
the way
you
the
so
plan
much.
is
Yes,
set up.
sir.
So we got a, Ms. Sandy, would you call the roll on this one, please?
Yes. Mr. Wascom?
yes.
Mr. Chopper?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah.
Mr. McMorris?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse? Yes. Mr. King?
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda is a subdivision with improvements. Belmont Subdivision, this is a revised preliminary plat. This is also in Mr. Bubba Harris's district, lot 16. There was at 191 lots, they revised it down to 79. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the revised preliminary plat for Belmont Subdivision.
Sam, I have a question.
Sure.
This is filing 1 and 2. How much land do they have there? Do y'all have any
They
idea?
tell me they got a ton of it, 500 plus acres. don't they?
Okay,
Didn't they
so,
say that last night?
so my question
Here we
is-
go, we got an engineer here.
Come on up, Mr. Engineer, let's figure out what we're doing here.
Thomas with the Alvin Fairbairn's office.
So Thomas,
Yes, sir.
y'all's initial drainage impact study, is it gonna be on the initial lots, or is it gonna be on the whole 500 something acres?
We're gonna do probably going in and doing the drainage impact studies as per filing.
So we're gonna do it as per filing, so
right,
every
as per
filing
filing.
will have their own retention pond.
Yeah, well, we're gonna make one large detention pond that should satisfy all of the areas.
Okay, so let me ask you a question, how can you build a big pond and then keep adding to it, knowing how it's gonna be effective if you don't study the whole
We'll-
500 some acres initially?
We'll oversize the ponds initially, and then when we do the drainage impact study for the next filing, if the pond still isn't large enough, then we'll increase the size of the pond to, for the additional lands. So we're gonna oversize it, then we'll keep sizing it as needed if it's not large enough, and we'll add different ponds throughout it, because we can't have, everything can't drain to one pond, so we'll have ponds throughout the entire development.
Okay. Maureen, can I ask you a question? So Belmont's made this submission on 1 and 2. They're gonna dig this big pond, and then as they grow, they're gonna, if the pond's capable, they're gonna drain into it if it's not. Since the submission is only on 1 and 2, and the drainage impact study is only on 1 and 2, if we amended the ordinance, let's say we amended the ordinance to make the developer improve drainage in a particular area, then that wouldn't affect 1 and 2, but it would affect any development after that. And so the pond would have to account for the improvement on drainage in a later date?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to make sure that they're not studying all at one time, they're going to study it as they go, and so whatever the rules are in place at that point in time, they'll have to abide by those as each filing is
Because
submitted.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna change the building code before they get to filing 3 on a lot of this stuff. So there will be some mitigation efforts
So,
in place.
so this is in your district, Mr. Harris. You want to make a motion?
Yes, I
We
will.
have a motion by Mr. Harris. Do we have a second?
I second.
Now, second, Mr. Keenan, any objection? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda is a minor resub. We've got, two resubs on each side of Runaker Road. This is in Mr. Gary Dow. No, this is in Jeff Orange.
Well, this
Yeah,
is.
this one's in Jeff Orange.
Here's the deal.
This is what?
Well, we're gonna handle these together. We're gonna handle F and G together. There was a
Both of them
gentleman-
together?
We're gonna handle F and G together, which is Lot A and Lot B. So what happened is a gentleman bought a piece of property, and it was one lot, had a state highway running through it. So he subdivided the initial lot into two separate lots. He then came back under the minor resub ordinance and subdivided each side of the road according to the minor resub. It was denied based on the fact that it's been less than 2 years. Initially, no lot should have been the same lot with a state highway running through it. It should have been two lots initially. Technically, it's a violation of the letter of the ordinance. It is not a violation of the spirit of the ordinance. So
I make a
consequently-
motion that we grant the waiver.
Got a motion by Mr. Delat to grant the waiver on item F and G?
I'd like you to, please, you keep explaining.
Okay, well, so in essence, what we, in discussion with the individual, that we have limited the number of driveways on the state highway because to get this approval, he's agreed to put in a culvert with a common servitude, so that every lot of, well, 8 of the 9 lots will have a common driveway, which would limit the access to driveways on the state highway from 9 on each side to 5 on each side.
You'll share a driveway for two homes.
But the developer or the property owner, before he can sell a lot, has to install the culverts, because typically the state cannot deny a property owner a culvert. And if there is no culvert, he can say, I have no access to my property, and they could get 9 individual culverts. If the culverts are there ahead of time, then he has no ability to go ask for an additional driveway. So we limit the number of driveways we'll stay up. There was a compromise in this thing to try to make it work better within the state highway. So we have a motion by Mr. Delat. We had a second by, did somebody make a second? I mean, Tracy wanted me to explain it more.
Yeah.
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Harris. Is there any concern amongst the council members, that questions that can be answered on this for you?
Well, this is in our district, and I'm looking at the vote as it went 3-4, failed at planning.
You want to defer it till Jeff gets back?
Well, Norman wasn't there and he would have voted yes to it.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, I did not call my appointment.
I would like to defer. Yeah,
Well,
I'd like to defer to the next meeting. That's, I have to have a second, so I would like to defer. Because I didn't speak to Mr. Burns on this, and why he voted yes, but there is obviously some dissension in the ranks on this.
So Mr. Burns voted,
He voted for it.
he voted for it. Mr. Babcock voted for it, Ms. Long voted for it, and my appointment voted against it, and I didn't ask for it, I didn't call it.
Same.
So we've got a motion, we got a motion,
I don't think.
we got a motion first to approve. Do we have a second to approve?
To defer, you mean?
Well, I mean, no, you voted to do it, and Bubba voted to do it. So we have a substitute by Tracy to defer, and a second by John. So let's vote on the substitute first. This will defer the item for 2 weeks.
Hey,
Call the roll.
wait, before we call for the vote, is this gonna cost 14 million to defer it for 2 weeks? 'Cause you just gave away 14
No,
million.
it's
I hope
after,
not.
For 2 weeks.
Well, I mean,
This bid,
I would call point of order, but you already know that's, you know.
go ahead and call the roll, Ms. Amy.
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
No.
Mr. Harris?
No.
Mr. McMorris?
No.
Mr. Delat?
No.
Mr. Garlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
yes.
Okay, so the item passed the item failed, 4-3 on the deferral. So back to the original motion by Mr. Delat and by Mr. Harris to approve those 2 lots. Ms. Sandy, would you call the roll?
Mr. Watson?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
Yes.
Mr. Gilat?
Yes.
Mr. Bellingham?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
The item carries
For 14
for
FNG.
FNG approval.
Yeah, I had no issue
Randy
with
in
it. I
favor.
just thought that Jeff might wanted to be here on that, so,
Well, my issue is,
but they voted no.
that it was,
Yeah, we overrode it.
Oh, the next item, Mr. Gilat, would be Mr.
Oh,
hey,
oh,
Mr. DeGirolamo. I apologize.
That's better than Scooter King, isn't it?
hey, dang it.
8, Indigo Trail.
I'll take that from
Okay,
you.
a subdivision with improvements. This is Indigo Trails. This is in Mr. Tracy's district, Buddy Ellis Road. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary plat for Indigo Trails third filing.
This is within the CDD that we just reactivated, am I correct? Okay.
And it doesn't show it, I don't know if y'all have the plans or not, but he does have 2 entrances in the subdivision, so it just don't show it on this map. And we asked him to revise the map to show the entrances.
So this is initially, as I understand it, that this is initially, everything is gonna be built, this is on the state police property.
Right.
This is where this is gonna be built. This is it for that particular section. They're gonna develop some more of it, but this, well, I mean, they got wetland, they got other issues.
Yeah.
But this initially is, I think, everything right now, which will get the CDD functioning properly with revenue and that kind of stuff. So.
This isn't the one where they donated some property for a school, it's further down, right?
That's for, well, they changed it, they changed the name. The Indigo Trails is part of the same development.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Girlinghouse, you have an opinion?
What'd you say, Tracy?
So
I have
many.
so many opinions on this. And it's just that development on that road in general.
Thank
But
God it's a
no,
new water road, that's all.
Well,
I'm
there
saying.
is gonna be a traffic impact study, Tracy,
The turn lane thing.
because it is a disaster.
No, it's Tracy's
on Ellis Road.
district.
Barry.
This is a particular situation that, part of 1 and 2 have already been approved. 3 actually gives you the next
The
entrance
next
to help with
Yeah, I
the.
know. Motion.
Got a motion by Mr. Girlinghouse. We have a second? Got a second by Mr. Harris. Is there any objection among the council members? Do you want to call for the vote? Everybody in favor? Everybody in favor say yes?
Yes.
Any opposed? Item carries.
Sure you had enough yeses?
We've got enough.
Next on the agenda is a commercial development. This is a D.R. Horton, Louisiana East Division Office Complex, preliminary site plan. This is also in Mr. Bubba Harris's district, Jubin Road. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for D.R. Horton, Louisiana East Division Office.
Well, this is the commercial piece of property in the front of Retreat, the Juvenile Estate, Retreat. So, look, I've got some concerns about this. I'm gonna tell you what they are. You see the footnote on there, drainage will be done with the Retreat of Juvenile Subdivision?
Yeah.
So they want to participate in the drainage impact study with the subdivision. They want to use the subdivision retention pond, but they don't want to be approved with the subdivision. So ultimately what you end up with, the deepest pockets have no responsibility for the retention pond. So I got a couple thoughts on this.
We can tell them no, and tell them they
Well,
gotta go get it all done.
my particular thought process, and I don't know if anybody else, I think this thing should be included in the retreat as a design feature from the beginning. And now it says in there that that section was designated for commercial, but if y'all ever go back and look at the map we got, you couldn't read that if you had to. And nowhere in the information given us when we approved the plat did that.
Whose district is
It's
it?
Mr. Harris.
Mr. Harris, are you willing to let it go back to see about maybe some more drainage improvements?
I am.
Is that what
Yes,
you're
I
saying?
am. I'll make a motion, send it back.
You got a second by Mr. Girlinghouse?
We gotta have something hooked to
Now,
that.
how you gonna send it back, Gary?
I think that the Horton, that commercial tract should be part of the original subdivision and should be approved with the original
So
subdivision,
you're
which
gonna
would
put that
require
in
a
the
10%,
motion?
which would require a 10%, would be a 10% variance, which would require the whole thing to be replatted and submitted before the council for approval.
Hey, that's-
So we got a
that's
motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Girlinghouse.
Would it go back
Sandy,
to planning
do you
first?
have-
It all gotta go back to planning and come back through us. Is, y'all want, let's call a roll on this, miss.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Calvert?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. So, Ms. Sam, you asked her if she had it.
I just wanted to make
She's
sure
good.
Miss Sandy had the
Morgan, you know what
Right.
you're talking about
Language.
doing? No?
Everything he just said,
Did you do?
part of the,
We'll let you know.
everything you
all the
just
stuff they
said.
won't come to the.
All together.
Ms. Calvert made a good point. I mean,
Absolutely.
I like the point you made.
I mean, they want to participate in the drainage, but they don't want to be part of the original subdivision. And so I just think it needs to be revisited. Item 15, Planning Department, Mr. Mr. Doggone, I got Delat, he has been,
Well, that's better than Scooter King.
Dang, that's twice.
Mr. DeGirolamo. Lord have mercy.
Quit
Okay,
talking
guys.
good about you. Oh, we got some, Gary.
Fairlane Farms.
I'm sorry, I just want clarification that for the retreat at Judith, we did not pass the commercial, we sent the residential back to the beginning.
We sent the commercial to be tied to the residential. We can't make them tie the commercial to residential. The commercial could die on its own, or they could resubmit it with its own retention pond. But if they want to do it running through that retention pond, they got to go back and tie it to residential and send it back through planning.
Okay, we ready?
15.
Fairlane Farms, first filing. It's a recommendation to accept the roads and improvements into the parish maintenance system. Now, I don't know, Miss Sandy, do we do it
Can we
one
do
at a
all-
time?
all
Because there's
four of these
three
at one
bonds
time?
involved in
If
this.
nobody objects,
Huh?
if nobody objects, we can do them all.
Let's do all four at one
There's
time. If we have
there's
a
three
negative vote,
bonds
we'll do something
involved
different.
in this thing. You gonna do it with the bonds, to release the bonds also?
All at one time, unless we have a no vote, Sam, then we'll have to go back and
Okay,
do
that's
each one
fine. I just
individually.
wanna make sure.
Yeah, we'll do it all.
To release $124,980.02, to release the $10,942.50, and also release the $10,680.85 maintenance bond. for
And that's in my
Fairlane
district. That's all checked out good.
No,
everything?
Farms.
That's
Yeah,
that's in
Chad, we went out there this morning, and Chad went out there
Actually,
this afternoon.
Fairlane Farms in Scooter District.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's just the district number.
That's it. They're always confusing me with scripture.
Like something,
I don't know how I feel about that.
saying it's District 3.
It's in
Okay.
District 3.
Okay.
Hey,
It's
you
mine.
okay with that, Scooter?
Yes, sir. I make a motion.
Got a motion on Scooter, do we have a second
Okay.
anywhere? Second motion to Delat, is there any objection on the council? All in favor say aye.
Miss Sam, I don't ask that to hound y'all. I just, and it's over and over. We
What's
ask
that,
her
Scooter?
that y'all have checked it and everything's
Oh,
good. Or
absolutely.
you wouldn't come to us and ask us to
Good
release it.
question.
If,
But that's okay. I mean, we on record saying that we did check.
that's good. I appreciate
Right,
it.
John?
Whatever you say, Mr.
He wasn't listening. He playing TikTok.
Okay, next on your agenda is Audubon Lakes third filing, Part 1. Kane Market Road in Mr. Gary Talbert's district. Recommendation to accept the roads and improvements into the parish maintenance and release the $74,261 maintenance bond.
Mr. Calvert?
Sam,
Sorry,
on Osprey, we still have a sinkhole.
in
where
the
that-
yard.
In the yard,
Yep.
where that pipe got bored through. It still hadn't been fixed.
No, it sure hadn't, but we've detected what the problem is. And AT&T, we went out there and cameraed it and
Right.
found it. I believe you were involved.
Right.
And AT&T has stood up to the plate and say they're gonna take care of it. Now, have they? No. As far as the roads are concerned, as far as the drainage and curbs, all of us in good shape, so.
Okay, I just want to note that
Well,
there's still a
we're-
sinkhole
we're-
out there and
We're
we're
working. It's
moving
work
in the
in
right.
progress. How about that?
Okay.
Mr. Talbot, yes? I'll make a motion.
Got a motion, second by Mr. Girlinghouse, any objection? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Okay, and this is also in Audubon Lake's third filing, Part 2 and 4, to accept the roads and improvements into the parish maintenance system and release the $207,699 maintenance bond.
Okay, what?
That's where the sinkhole is.
Right, okay. I thought the sinkhole was on Osprey. It was on the front, the guys, I thought it was
This
on
is in the
Osprey.
back.
Okay. Got a motion by Mr. Delat, second by Mr. Wascom. Any objection? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's carried. 16, board resignation reappointments. Thank you very much,
Yep,
Mr.
yep.
DiGirolamo. I got the right D. I started with D and finished it right this time, so. Item A, Recreation District 3, Mr. Wascom. I see you have a couple appointments on here.
Just one for tonight.
What's all red?
Anyway, I got a letter from one of my current appointments, Mr. DJ Ramirez sent me a letter of resignation, and I'd like to.
We knew that was coming. He just.
Yeah,
stepped
he
up to
did.
the
He
plate
stepped
for
up
us.
when Mr. Arthur died, and I found someone that I'd like to put on. I think would be really good.
That's
Mr. Ray Riley, and I had spoken with Miss Sandy, gave her all of his information, and if y'all would, I'd appreciate it if y'all would support me and make a motion of accepting the resignation and appointing
We
Mr.
got a motion to
I'll
accept the
second that.
resignation and the appointment of Mr. Ray Riley. Got a second.
I got no
got a
issue.
appointment-
Ray
Motion by
make a
Mr.
good
Wascom, second by Mr.
addition.
King. All in favor say aye. All, no opposed? Item carried.
You gonna be busy.
B, Juvenile Trails Community Development District. This is Mr. Delat's appointment.
Yeah, I'm in.
Where's that at, Is that quarter plantation?
No, this is Juvenile Trails. This is the one where we have a sheriff employee resigning, another one being reappointed.
We got the paperwork, right? I'll make that motion, who was it?
We're gonna accept the resignation of, board member Mrs.
Ronnie McMorris.
And appoint,
I
as
make
recommended
that motion.
by the sheriff, Hard, and the board, or Mr. Perry.
Okay, so we got a motion to accept. We got a motion by Mr. Lat, second by Mr. Bubba Harris. All in favor say aye. Aye. Nobody's opposed. That item carries. Item C, the Carter Plantation Community Development District, Mr. Delat.
We got that letter too, Sandy?
Yeah.
Could you say who that people are?
They're asking, the board is asking the parish council if they recommend the replacement for Mr. Ricky Juven, to be Mr. Paul Washinka Jr. to replace that.
It was nowhere I could pronounce that. I'll make that motion.
The attorney told me how to say it, Mr.
I
Pat.
second.
That's the only way I know.
And so we got a motion by Mr. Lat, second by Mr. Wasserman. Any objection? All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, so we've got a new appointment there. Item D, Recreation District 5 South. Mr.
I made the
Lamar.
motion to accept the letter resignation
I'll
of Jeremy
second that.
Collins.
Okay, so we got a motion to accept the resignation of Mr. Jeremy Collins.
Second.
We got a second by Mr. Wasserman. Any objection? All in favor say aye. I take it you don't have an appointment yet, you just accepted the resignation. Okey-doke. Committee reports. None of these met, but we might have somebody want to.
17. You got 17 on yours?
Oh, we
Add a
sure do.
road.
I'm sorry. 17, I skipped the whole deal. Adopt a resolution to add commercial drive for consideration to the capital outlay priority road list, Mr. R.C. Bubba Harris.
Yes, I'm all for that motion.
We got a second. Is this in Council District 4?
No,
Is it 5? Okay, it must be close on the edge.
it is.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
And there was another one that I wanted to bring up under this,
Randy seconded Bubba's
Who
motion.
made the second?
Randy seconded Bubba's motion.
and it's in Greystone.
Let's do it in 2 weeks, because
It's
I got
not the
some.
main boulevard going in, but it's the road that goes to the clubhouse.
Sandy,
I
can
can't
you
remember.
put that on the agenda for Mr. Harris to add another road to the priority road list in the next meeting?
Yeah, I think we'll have several soon.
Sam told me the name of it then, I can't
I
remember.
got you. We'll get it on there for you,
Clubhouse
Mr. Harris.
Drive.
Committee reports, ordinance, you guys something you want to report?
Well, you know, it felt like it's been forever since we had a meeting, but I know it wasn't that long ago.
Still a month.
Yeah. But I know that when we have the next meeting, Alvin Fairburn, the associate's going to be there, bringing us the ordinance for the
Zoning.
phase one, the zoning introduction for the definitions and how it goes through. They're going to come, I'm sure there'll be some talk about that.
Can I ask the chairman something? Tracy, you had any feedback yet over the zoning from the council members? Any concerns? What I've read and seen, I
Yes.
couldn't see any concerns.
There's going to be a few little tweaks to it, I think, just in language, but by the time we'll get it done, we should have it, we'll have it Tuesday. So after Tuesday, if it's format's what you see is what you get, so. Yeah, and just remember too, we can change that at any time, and should be, as things go.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be
It is
fluid.
a fluid document, so, this is the first step before, they start doing the mapping, and then the real work begins.
So then after we do the mapping, that's when we'll start having community meetings on this?
Get the maps out, and then I would assume you get it, and if any individual councilman knows certain things, I think it should be like this, you can give it back to them how to make that change, and then
Then we'll start.
we'll start with the meetings then.
Oh, good. I want Brad to accompany me.
So, anything
No,
else?
you don't.
We can go to locals after.
That's it, that's it?
That's it. And I didn't know, we were kind of touched on the ordinance, or we were gonna talk on the ordinance for the social media regulations up there. Yeah, I would have some information on that, how we would go forward on that by Tuesday.
I got you.
One thing I'd like to
Oh,
bring
all
up
right.
Okay.
under ordinance committee. I don't know if y'all had a chance to read over the ordinance that I gave y'all.
Take over.
Got Brad here, he can explain it a lot better than I can.
The new addition on the building code.
Yeah, so a lot of it is about trying to discourage large subdivisions from building within the wetland areas of the neighborhoods. And so there's different ways you can go about doing it. It really encourages what's called a cluster development, to where you have certain requirements that if they build in a wetland, you do things like larger lot size. Like you have to build a 1 acre lot instead of an 80-foot wide lot, right? So it kind of discourages them from building in there. Then you also have an acre for acre trade-off system, to where you say for every acre of wetland you leave alone and you agree to designate as you will never build on it, you can have another acre of a smaller lot size, like a 60-foot wide lot. So it really encourages these developers to buy larger parcels of land, leave the wetland areas alone, and then kind of concentrate the houses in one particular section of the larger piece of property.
Out of the way.
I was making that comment on what he's saying also. I think we should also, I don't know, the ordinance committee's got so much to do, they the guys that gotta look at it. But I really think it's time now for drainage impact fees now on any building in the wetlands. And I know that's more than half the parish, but I think it's time, I know there's gonna be a lot of people opposing this, but it's time that we try to do something progressively to try to stop the flooding that's happening. And I
Well,
think-
and that's another thing too.
It doesn't have to necessarily be all wetlands.
Or
Maybe if you build any subdivision anywhere, then there should be impact fees imposed in
And
order to.
I agree, and I agree with that too, but I don't know what can pass and can't pass. It's kind of like the zoning, you gotta give and take. But if you go on and build where it's a natural habitat for water flood, to stand and collect, and you filling that up with pond, you're digging a pond and the pond stays full, taking that dirt and building up, you flooding somebody else. If you're already in an X and you're building, you're probably not flooding nobody out if you're building a home or whatever,
Right.
Well,
But
and
it's something
that's
that you may
one
have to
thing.
give, you may not be able to get everything, but it's time to start that discussion.
Absolutely.
That's one thing in this ordinance too. If you build in wetlands,
I think that's where you gotta
you
start.
can only build it up so high.
I think that's where you gotta start.
Then if you have to go above that, it has to be on piers and beams.
Right.
I think wetlands is where you gotta start.
And then that was the other section of it. You put a 2-foot fill limit you can only change the natural slope and natural topography by 2 feet either up or down within the wetlands.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you go down Plantation Boulevard, and I brought this up before, and I happened to ride through there yesterday.
Those new houses on the right down there?
Yes. It's
They got
pitiful.
12
They
foot
have,
dirt
the
on it.
house is gonna fall off of that pile of dirt, whatever amount.
Like that trailer down there by the roundabout at the end of Walker South.
Yeah.
Mr. Ord asked me to report on the finance committee.
Go ahead, Mr.
I have not reported this time. Finances are good.
That sounds like you'd be.
Item C, Drainage, Citizen Drainage Committee. You wanna come on up and tell us what y'all's recommendation is?
My name's Brian Clemens, I'm on the Citizens Drainage Board. We're asking for the parish to commission a study for the major waterways where they cross roads, parish roads, state roads. We get a map made and see what projected flows are, the various bridges and culverts, and we can identify patterns of choke points. That's so we can know how to address the drainage in the future.
Mr. Chairman, that's a good idea. It's all been done in Gravity 1 at every single place.
We need a parish
And
wide.
it's in the GIS and you can look at it and it'll show you. And we got the monitors set up that shows you flow rates. They can tell you if it rained 3 inches up, what it's gonna do right below that bridge. It needs to be done parish wide. Of course, it ain't the funding like we got in 1, to do that.
I think we may have some funding available. Didn't one time we have some money that was set aside and we said that maybe the parish-wide drainage committee could use? Can't we pass a resolution or amend the budget, take that money to do the study, to hire somebody to
No.
do that?
Okay, so.
Because I was told by the parish president, we can't spend that money for
Okay,
nothing.
so we could pass a resolution. The question is, and there seems to be some discrepancy.
Okay.
And I'm asking the attorney. Can amendments to the budget be generated at the council level, or do they have to come from the administration?
I know you can make a resolution.
I know we can make a resolution, which is like,
Nothing.
Right.
making a wish in one hand and something
Yeah.
else in the other. But go ahead, tell us, have you studied the Home Rule Charter about whether budget amendments can be generated at the council level?
I have not seen that in y'all's home rule chart.
Can you report
can.
on that, or whoever's here in 2 weeks to let us know?
Yes,
Go ahead,
sir.
Mr. Delat.
I want to ask a question. Why couldn't it be, being they're the only one that can amend the budget? Administration can't amend the budget.
They can, but typically, they might have to present to the council any amendments for us to vote on. I'm not sure that the Home Rule Charter allows us to generate an amendment on our own. And we're gonna let legal counsel look at that and give us a
Would you ask me
response.
that
You know where it
before
is?
we-
I would like to know that as well, if you don't mind. But I will like to throw one more thing out. Now, with the city of Denham, I knew for a fact that if in the council meeting, we look at each other and say, we need a backhoe, and we vote to approve a backhoe and put it in the general fund, and if we vote to do anything and spend money, technically, we're amending our budget.
Correct.
But that's my understanding. I could be wrong, so I'm hoping Mr. Cascio can bring that information
If
back.
it's budgeted ahead of time, you can do that. But
Even if it's not.
If it's not budgeted, you can do that?
I mean-
Also depends too, it's like if there's the Lawrence in that community, it's a little.
Well, we are the Lawrence, it was
Yeah,
the
it's-
Lawrence
it's
Act,
a little bit-
but
it's a
check
little
on it.
bit
But
different.
but
It's a little
technically,
different.
we amend the budget every time we vote to spend money.
There should be grant funding
money
available
cannot
from
be
the federal
spent.
government for that.
Here's the
If
deal.
I may.
If you think about typically what we've done in the past, the administration will come to us and ask us to approve something that might not be budgeted. But the understanding, and the auditor just said this is okay, if we approve the spending of the money, as long as we amend the
At the
budget
end.
at the end to account for that,
That's legal.
we're good, because we basically
Right.
said grace over it. What we're talking about here is not something coming from the administration. We're talking about putting a line item in the budget to spend dollars a particular way on a particular
Well,
situation.
and we did, and then I was told that tough.
Well,
Well, listen, I think there's a sentence, because I helped write this charter now. I think there's a sentence that says, all unbudgeted money has to go before the council to be,
Well, I'm reading in section 5-04 amendments to the operating budget. Typically, you get a report from the president certifying that they are available for appropriation funds in excess of those estimated in the operating budget. The president may present supplemental to the budget for the disposition of such funds, and the council by ordinance may make supplemental appropriations for the year.
But if if all
president
funds,
doesn't,
if
if
all
it's just-
funds are budgeted and there are no surplus dollars, and there's nothing
The
for
only
us to
time you
appropriate.
can, the only time the council that I'm reading right here, just, I'll dig into it further for the next 2 weeks. But just for tonight's purposes, the only time the council can do it on their own is for emergency situations.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Mr. Gilmore. So suppose he comes up and says, okay, there's 250,000, and I forgot where the money came from, Gary, you make me refresh my memory. That is, it has to go somewhere.
It's
That's
still
going-
on that line.
I know it's on that line.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there. The money is there.
But I thought we can't-
So we say, okay, this is what we're gonna do with the money,
You can't make him spend it there.
That's what I'm
unless you
saying.
do an ordinance. Is that what
Right.
we're saying?
And then you can't.
Wait a second, and then,
Ordinance is a law.
well, wait a second, I understand, but I asked Sandy a while back about an ordinance to do a specific thing, and I was told that ordinances only could be utilized for certain deals. You can't just make ordinance to make somebody do something. The ordinances are limited by what they can do. So you can't pass ordinances.
To
I'm gonna
fix
pass
what?
ordinance that says you're gonna do such and such.
It's a law if
because-
you don't go.
Yeah, because the ordinance
We
is,
can do
the
that all
ordinance
the
has
time.
the ordinance has a
The
limit.
the rules are pretty straight.
Yes.
So anyway, I mean, look,
Wait, he's gonna look it up, but I wanna make one more statement, okay? See if I had it on the tip of my tongue, see if I can remember this. It seems like administration, we make a budget, we adopt a budget. We can't go back and cut that budget to force administration to fire someone or do anything. We can't do those things. But it just seems like it was plainly stated that the amended budget had to be done by the council, and that's how the council controls, make, it,
That's if you want to leverage.
Well, we could just say we're not gonna approve it until.
if we don't approve, right.
You know, but, I mean, that wouldn't be the right way to do
look,
it. But it's
look,
sometimes the
make
only way
no,
to
make
do
no
it.
mistake, that's why when we approve a budget at the end of the year, it's got every wish dollar that might exist in it. That way, if those dollars come available, they never have to come back to the council.
So I agree with what Brian's telling us. We
Oh,
need to
me
do
too.
this.
We absolutely need to
this.
do that.
May I make another statement here?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Portions of the parish right now are having studies done on watersheds, for instance, Beaver Creek.
Yeah.
And you were part of that decision. That was about $333,000, I believe. That's federal funds that's being taken out of the federal watershed initiative. And it could be that we could approach it looking for a federal grant under the same initiative. I think round 2 is right now being determined.
Well, that's actually hazard mitigation grant funds that's doing that deal. The watershed, Livingston Parish got beat up pretty good on the last watershed initiative round of funding.
We found out why.
Well, and hopefully we can make some submittals. The issue
Region.
is any entity within any legal entity within the parish can make those requests. So typically Gravity 8 can make a request, Gravity 5 can make a request, Gravity 2 can make a request. Gravity 1 doesn't need it because they've already got it in place. So we could accomplish it within each gravity drainage district because they're able to do it. I don't know if we could do it parish-wide because part of the parish has already been done. And so it would be kind of, but maybe,
The thing is, with the system that they
maybe,
got in place in one, you can plug everything together and it will function across. The
Maybe-
problem is that to get to have the watershed initiative money, we have to prove that what we're doing helps a region, which Livingston Parish is St. Tammany, Livingston, Ascension, part of East Baton Rouge. Garrett and them are trying right now, Garrett Graves, to make Livingston Parish its own. I think it's 6 or 7A.
7A.
7A, and then we'll be able to do just Livingston Parish as a region. Because there's a river on both sides that separates everything, and it can't, we can work on regions along those rivers, but not from St. Tammany to EBR. So if he gets that done, then these submittals that are coming from Gravity 1, from you guys, all kinds of this can be approved because it will fix our region.
A lot of this information can be assembled from studies that have already been done. Each major crossing point, culverts and bridges have ratings. Tells you whether or not it's up to snuff for expected rainfalls. So a lot of the information just needs to be
And just plug
collated.
it
We
in.
don't have access to it.
Right. And so, do you know where that's, how that's going to get that region done? I mean,
We're not,
see, it was kind of in a beta stage when it first came out because it had never been done before. So the governor just set up regions and said, here, let's do that.
you know,
You know.
maybe we
Without a
can-
big picture, though, we can't identify systemic choke points that'll affect
No, and they
areas.
identified some of them, and they're all submitted in one to get
I don't think
funding.
anybody disagrees with you, and I think we'll probably have a resolution in a couple of weeks asking for that to be done, but we'll
Yes.
have to figure out much more than a
How to fund
resolution,
it.
what we can do other than.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Brian.
And Mr. Chairman, same thing that he was talking about, the question that we asked him to look to see if we can do that. There's two budgets that we should be submitted to us.
Right.
It should be a capital improvement and it should be an operating budget. If we ever get our capital improvement budget, what he is talking about could be in the
That's
capital
where it would
improvement
be.
budget, and we don't need an amendment, and we can hire people to do that. So there's a way to get around.
When you
this.
say we can hire, you mean the administration can hire?
Where the council would have to put it in the budget. Only the council can approve the budget. You know, the president can't say, I got $14 million, this is what we're gonna do. It has to be approved by us. We have to do it.
Well, this is July. In December, we need to hold some
Yeah,
feet
it's
to the
my
fire and say,
understanding-
we're tired of
it's
people
my
getting
understanding
flooded
it's
because
been
we're
5,
not
6
doing
years
enough.
and we ain't had our capital improvement budget.
You're right.
I'm good with doing that.
Okay. District Attorney's report.
Tapped out.
Okay. But you still got that check this week, didn't you? Councilman comments.
I got one. Hey, are you gonna be able to make the next meeting?
It ain't his turn.
It's not my turn, it's Moody's turn, but if you'd rather me come, I don't think you'll be upset.
Hey, you buying?
Just a
Well,
reminder,
I would like to bring up this ordinance.
Well, why don't you get Sandy to take that ordinance and send it to Mr. Moody and.
I'll be happy to come, I'll be happy to come to the next ordinance committee meeting as well.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Let's
I don't know
send,
when that, when
Tuesday the same, it'd be the 20th?
yeah, the 20th.
September on the same night.
Mr. McMorris.
yes, July the 24th and 25th. We're gonna be having a St. Jude Bar Rodeo at Manny's, what's it called, Manny's Bar and Grill, down on Highway 22. You can come out and join us.
You gonna cook?
No, I'm fishing.
Oh, you don't know how to fish. You might as well cook.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a question. Guys, I wanted to, go ahead.
Go ahead,
Garbage.
no, go ahead.
I want to explain my passion on this item with the giving up the 14 million. That's it entirely in District 8. We don't have a lot of hotels and McDonald's and all that stuff, and we have an unfunded drainage district. That was, it's hard to keep asking people to pay money, and we give 14 million away to a business that's not even located in Louisiana.
But those people that work there are.
But listen, those people are not gonna be threatened by their jobs if they get this great 14 million. The investment is almost $1 billion of investment there.
Right.
The thing is, now the sheriff's gonna probably keep his money because if past practices is anything, he turned it down when it was just one job created. This has created no jobs. And there's no guarantee that the state is even gonna do this. But they can get us to do this, and that's a big thing. That's why they're even trying to talk about changing the law again. We may not have this power again for years to come. We just got this new power, and we need to take it seriously.
They already changed it and made it to where even if we say yes, they can say no, or if we say no,
It's
they
been
can say
approved by
yes.
the state's approved it already. I mean, it's gotta get state approval before it comes to us for.
I think I grew up in Holden, and those 119 jobs are important. And like you said,
But
they
no-
may not go away,
They didn't even say that.
but I can guarantee you with what they're putting in place, they can cut it down to 50 in a heartbeat.
But listen to me. You think they would stop $1 billion industry over $14 million?
No,
No.
they not. They gonna put it somewhere
How much
else,
the sheriff's
where
gonna
it's more efficient and, anyhow. We passed
That's
that.
just a payoff.
Well, we appreciate it, and that's important.
That's just a payoff to those stockholders. But the guys that's getting flooded out in Holden and Albany and Walport and Prince Edward and Lipston,
They need to vote a tax in.
and they will.
No, they
But
won't.
you gotta give them something.
They won't vote We just gave him something.
Y'all
He
keep
took
count-
away from him.
Y'all keep Councilman Ard in your prayers today. He had
Yeah.
a medical procedure today. He's not feeling very well right now. Hopefully this will.
We gotta get him back right,
Yes.
bad.
But, we just keep Councilman Ard. Anything else? Got a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Girlinghouse. Who wants a second?
10
Nobody wants a
seconds.
second?
We ain't no hurry, sir.
Mr. Bubba Harris, second. Any objection? All in favor, say aye. Thank you.